Hello there, and welcome to Dreamy Minds. Somewhere, just beyond the edge of this long day, a garden is waiting for you. Not a garden you have to walk to, or take care of, or even open your eyes for. A quieter kind of garden. One that blooms in the soft space between waking and sleep. Made of memories, colors, and the secret language of petals. You might be lying there now, feeling the echoes of your day still humming in your chest. Thoughts circling, small worries clinging like burrs to the fabric of your mind. It's normal to feel this way, especially when the world has been loud, or fast, or heavy. Somewhere deep in the brain, your nervous system is still standing guard, like a watchful sentry who has not yet heard that the night is safe. Tonight, we'll gently send that sentry home. We'll do it with flowers. Not as decorations, not as symbols, but as quiet pieces of science and softness. Because hidden inside every petal is a story your body already understands. The curve that calms your eyes, the scent that soothes your ancient limbic brain, the colors that tell your nervous system, you may rest now. The danger has passed. As you listen, you won't need to remember facts or follow any complicated ideas. Let this be less like a lesson, and more like lying down in a meadow of gentle truths. We'll wander slowly through the ways flowers speak to your senses, how their patterns and perfumes find their way into your heartbeat, how simply imagining them can soften tension in your muscles and quiet the ripples of an anxious mind. Like the stars waiting quietly behind the sky's brightness, there are calm circuits waiting quietly beneath your thoughts, pathways in your brain that know how to exhale. Tonight, we will visit them. So if you'd like, you can close your eyes now. Feel the weight of your body supported, held. And let this be a slow unfolding, a story of blossoms and biology. Of petals and peace, of how the smallest flower can guide a tired mind, gently toward sleep, somewhere beneath your collarbone, in the soft dim theater of your chest. A quiet choreography is always unfolding. Even now, as you listen, your heart is keeping time. Your lungs are lifting and falling like slow waves, and deep inside, your nervous system is deciding, moment by moment, whether to brace or to soften. You don't have to do any of this on purpose. You don't have to remember how to beat your heart or count each breath to make it happen. There is a part of you, bold, wise, invisible, that carries these rhythms for you, like a musician who never puts down their instrument. If you like, you can notice it, just a little. The gentle weight of your body resting where you are. The subtle pull of gravity, hugging you toward the earth. The coolness or warmth of the air on your skin. You are here, and your body is still working faithfully in the background, even if your thoughts have been racing far ahead. Somewhere in this system, there is a watchful guardian, the part of your brain and nerves that scans for danger, ready to tighten muscles, speed the heart, sharpen the senses. When life feels overwhelming, this guardian works overtime. It keeps the body slightly on edge, just in case. It's normal if that feels familiar, the feeling of being ready, even when there's nothing to run from. The way the jaw stays clenched, or the breath stays shallow, as if the day hasn't quite ended yet, even though the sun has already gone down. Inside your body, scientists have given these patterns names. The sympathetic nervous system, the stream of nerves and chemicals that prepare you to fight or flee, and the parasympathetic nervous system, the quieter river that invites you to rest, digest, and repair. You might imagine them as two tides, flowing through the same sea. One tide rises when something feels threatening or urgent, pouring energy into your muscles, making your heart beat faster, flooding your mind with bright, insistent thoughts. The other tide rises when the world feels safe enough to exhale. It slows the heart, softens the breath, and opens small doorways to comfort and sleep. Most of the time they ebb and flow together, balancing, adjusting, like a pair of hands playing both high and low notes on a piano. When you are very tired or very stressed, the alert tide can stay high for too long. It is as if your inner guardian has forgotten how to step down from the watchtower. Tonight, very gently, we invite that guardian to look towards something else, something ancient and simple and quietly reassuring. We invite it to look at flowers, not necessarily flowers in a vase or in a garden you must walk to, or in a photograph under bright lights. Even the idea of them is enough. A single bloom resting in your imagination, its petals unfolding in the softened glow behind your eyes. Somewhere deep in the mind, your nervous system recognizes flowers as a message. The world is alive here. Things are growing. There is water. There is light. There is time to bloom. Psychologists have a word for this pull we feel toward living things and natural places. They call it biophilia, a love of life itself, woven into the architecture of being human. For thousands of years, long before cities and screens and electric nights, our ancestors survived by paying attention to the land. They learned that certain sights often meant safe enough. Green leaves meant water nearby. Ripe fruit meant nourishment. Open, flowering fields meant visibility. Fewer places for predators to hide. More room to see the sky. Somewhere in that ancient memory, flowers became quiet signals of okayness, not guarantees, not promises, but gentle suggestions that the environment could support growth instead of only defense. Your body, even now, carries that deep history in its cells. When your eyes rest on a blossom, or when your mind imagines one, you are not just seeing pretty colors and shapes. You are speaking an old language to your nervous system, a language made of petals and light. Imagine, for a moment, a small flower in front of you. It can be any kind, a daisy with its sunny center, a rose slowly unfolding layer upon layer, a tiny wildflower you once saw pushing through a crack in the pavement. See if one comes to mind on its own. If it doesn't, that's all right too. You can simply listen and borrow these images as they arrive. Notice the outline of the petals. Soft, curved, almost impossibly delicate. Your eyes, or the part of your mind that stands in for them, trace the edges without effort. There are no harsh angles to solve, no blinking notifications, no urgent lines demanding you act. To your brain, this matters. The visual world you move through every day is full of sharp corners, straight edges, glowing rectangles, shapes that demand precision, that keep the attentional systems of your brain slightly tensed and ready. Natural forms are different. They bend, they curve, they repeat in loose, gentle variations. They do not ask the same kind of focus that a crowded inbox or a bright, buzzing screen asks. In the mind, there is a kind of attention that researchers sometimes call soft fascination. It's the way your awareness drifts when you watch waves or leaves in the wind, or the slow opening of a flower. You are interested, but not gripped. You are present, but not strained. Part of your mind can rest, even as another part drifts lightly along the scene. When you look at flowers, or picture them, you invite this soft fascination to take over for a while. The regions of the brain that handle intense, effortful focus, the parts that juggle deadlines, keep track of conversations, remember what comes next, are allowed to step back, like overworked actors leaving the stage. So an understudy can take the quieter lines. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, your body begins to respond. Somewhere in your chest, your heart listens. It communicates with the brain. Through a constant stream of signals, tiny electrical messages traveling along nerves, chemical whispers moving through blood. One of the main pathways is a long wandering nerve that drifts from your brainstem down through your heart, your lungs, and deep into your abdomen. This is the vagus nerve, its name rooted in a word that means wandering, like a traveler or a river. When the parasympathetic resting side of your nervous system is active, this nerve carries the message. It is safe enough to slow down. You may lower the drawbridge. You may put down your armor. Heart rate in those moments does something interesting. It does not become a metronome, perfectly steady and mechanical. Instead, it gains a subtle, healthy flexibility. Scientists call this heart rate variability, the tiny differences in timing between one heartbeat and the next. When you are relaxed, these differences are more pronounced. The heart speeds a little as you inhale, slows a little as you exhale, like a child swinging gently back and forth. When you are anxious or under threat, this variability often shrinks. The heart locks into a tighter, more uniform pattern, ready for action, less available for rest. Studies conducted quietly in laboratories and clinics and gardens have noticed something delicate. When people spend time around nature, or even just view images of natural scenes, with trees, water, and flowers, their heart rate variability tends to increase. Their bodies, without any conscious instruction, begin to move toward that softer swinging rhythm. You don't need to remember the term. You don't have to hold on to the phrase heart rate variability. If it feels too technical, you can think of it instead as the heart remembering how to sway. Flowers, in their small and patient way, help your system recall this swaying. At the same time, deep inside your brain, there is a constellation of structures that manage your stress response. One of them sits just above the roof of your mouth, a small almond-shaped cluster called the amygdala. It is alert, emotional, quick to notice danger. When something feels threatening, the amygdala rings an internal bell and a cascade begins. Hormones like cortisol and adrenaline are released into your bloodstream, preparing your body to react, to protect, to move. This response is powerful and necessary. It has kept humans alive in countless moments of real danger. But it can also be stirred by things that are not life or death, like an email, a memory, an imagined conversation. If that bell rings too often, the body never quite finishes the alarm. Cortisol, the stress hormone, can linger in the blood like a leftover storm. Muscles stay slightly tensed. Sleep becomes shallow. Thoughts loop and spin. Over the past few decades, researchers have invited volunteers into rooms with plants, into hospital wards with and without flowers, into laboratories where they are shown images of cities or of gardens. Again and again, a pattern appears. Those who spend time with natural scenes often show lower levels of cortisol afterward. Their bodies, as if hearing an unspoken message, quietly turn the volume down. On the internal alarm, you might imagine cortisol as the echo of a shout in a canyon. Flowers and other gentle pieces of nature help absorb the echo, so it fades faster into silence. This doesn't mean that a single blossom can erase all stress or sorrow. Life is more complex than that. But it does mean that your body is built with the capacity to be soothed by the presence of living things. It carries, in its oldest circuitry, the ability to interpret soft petals as a sign that it can release its grip a little. Even if you are indoors, even if it is night, even if the only flower available to you is the one you can imagine resting in your open hand, you might picture that now if you wish. A flower resting gently against your palm. Feel its weight, almost nothing. Like a whisper, like a thought. Notice the texture of the petals, silky, cool, perhaps slightly dewy. As you imagine it, your brain does something remarkable. Many of the same regions that would activate if you were truly holding that flower, the visual areas that see its color, the sensory areas that feel its texture, begin to glow quietly in response to the mental image alone. The brain, in many ways, does not draw a sharp, immediate line between what is vividly imagined and what is directly perceived. This means that the calming effect of looking at flowers can be invited, at least in part, through imagination as well. You don't have to force anything. You don't have to see the picture clearly. Even the vague sense of a gentle bloom can be enough of a seed as these images form. The prefrontal cortex, a region behind your forehead that handles planning and problem solving, has a chance to rest. It has been holding so much. To-do lists, worries, what-ifs, memories of conversations, imagined futures. When your attention shifts to something simple, something that asks nothing of you, this part of the brain can let its shoulders drop, so to speak. You are not asking it to plan a response or calculate an answer. You are simply letting it watch the soft unfolding of petals. In that space, the body's inner guard can step back. The sympathetic fight or flight tide begins to recede, and the parasympathetic tide rises gently to meet the shore. You might feel it in tiny ways, a slightly deeper breath, a small unclenching in the belly, the way your eyes want to close more often, like curtains being drawn at the end of the day. If some part of you is still tense, still buzzing, that is all right. The nervous system does not always shift instantly from storm to stillness. Sometimes it needs time, the way a pond needs time after a stone has been thrown, for the ripples to fade. Flowers, whether real or remembered, can be like slow, steady raindrops on that pond, each one smoothing the surface. A little more, you might remember a time when you saw flowers in a place of difficulty, a hospital room, a funeral, the kitchen table after a hard week. Sometimes bouquets appear precisely where pain or fear is strongest. Isn't it interesting that we bring fragile, living color into the spaces where human vulnerability is most exposed? Somewhere inside, we know what science quietly confirms, that being near blossoms and leaves can support the nervous system's attempt to find balance again. That in the presence of life continuing to grow, our own bodies receive subtle permission to move, however slowly, toward healing, toward rest. It's normal if, as you listen, your mind still wanders back to unfinished tasks, to stray worries, to echoes of the day. The brain is like that. It loops, it revisits, it checks again if the door is really locked. You don't need to argue with it. You don't have to force it to be quiet. Each time it wanders, you can simply offer it a flower. Here, you might say, somewhere deep inside yourself. Look at this for a moment instead. See the color. Follow the curve. Imagine the faint green scent of the stem. With each gentle return to this inner garden, you are not failing at rest. You are practicing it. You are teaching your nervous system the pathway back to softness over and over until the path becomes familiar again, somewhere beneath your collarbone. In that quiet choreography of heart and lungs, small adjustments are happening. Neurons are firing in slightly different patterns. Chemical messengers rise and fall. The watchful guardian inside you is learning that, for now. In this moment, it can stand down. You are allowed to be held by the surface you are lying on, by the air around you, by the simple presence of petals in your mind. Your body, in its wisdom, knows how to downshift into safety. Flowers, real, remembered, or imagined, are like gentle hands on an invisible lever, guiding it slowly, tenderly, toward rest. You don't have to understand every mechanism. You don't need to memorize the names of nerves and hormones. All you need is this quiet knowing that somewhere deep in you, life recognizes life, and soft, blooming things help your own inner blooming. Relax into the night. Scents move differently than other sensations, while sights usually wait at the doorway of awareness, and sounds travel the long hallway of interpretation. Smells seem to slip through a side entrance. Quiet, invisible, already halfway into your memories. Before you realize they have arrived. You've probably felt it before. You are walking down a familiar street, or maybe you are sitting alone in your room, the day a little frayed around the edges. And then, unexpectedly, a trace of something tender brushes past your nose. The soft sweetness of jasmine from a nearby garden. The powdery echo of a perfume someone once wore. The gentle green of cut stems in a florist's window. And for a moment, you are no longer where you are. You are in another time, on a summer evening years ago, bare feet touching cool grass, the sky turning the color of fading peaches. Or you're in a quiet hospital room, where everything smelled faintly of antiseptic and worry, except for a small vase of flowers, doing their best to make the air feel less sharp. One breath, and the present opens like a door into the past. Scent does that. It does not ask for permission, or announce itself with fanfare. It just arrives, carrying entire atmospheres inside it. Feelings, faces, rooms, seasons. Tonight, as you rest here, we'll drift into that invisible world of floral fragrance and explore how the simple act of smelling a flower can cradle the oldest parts of your brain. You don't need a flower nearby. You don't need a candle or a bottle of perfume. You only need your imagination and the quiet chemistry of your own breath. If you'd like, you can notice your breathing now, not to change it, just to feel that it's there. Air entering, air leaving, a tide you've been riding your entire life. With each inhale, countless tiny molecules flow into your nose, curling along the moist, delicate passages inside. Most of them you never consciously notice. They come and go like strangers in a crowd. But every now and then, there are molecules with a shape that fits perfectly into the waiting receptors deep inside your nose. You can imagine these receptors like millions of tiny locks, lining a small patch high in your nasal passages. Not metal, not cold, but living, responsive keys and doors, made of protein and possibility. When a scent molecule drifts by, something from a rose or lavender, or the green stems of freshly cut leaves, it clicks into place in one of those locks. In that instant, a message begins. Electrical signals ripple along slender nerve fibers, upward, inward, toward a small structure at the base of your brain. This structure, the olfactory bulb, is like a quiet train station, where these scent messages arrive and are sorted. Most of the senses you carry, vision, hearing, touch, stop first in a central relay station called the thalamus, before moving on to other places. It's a bit like a busy airport hub, deciding which information goes where. Smell is different. It bypasses that busy hub. Instead, from the olfactory bulb, its signals travel along a more private pathway, a direct route into the ancient emotion-filled parts of your brain. The limbic system. You might imagine the limbic system as a cluster of rooms deep inside your skull, lit by the wavering glow of old memories and wordless feelings. In one room, the amygdala sits, small and alert, watching for danger, storing the emotional tone of your experiences. What felt safe, what felt scary, what brought comfort, what brought pain. In another room, the hippocampus waits, shaped a little like a seahorse, curving gently around the center of your brain. It helps take the raw material of your days and weave them into long-term memories, not just facts, but the felt sense of what it was like to be you. In each of those moments, scent walks straight into these rooms, without knocking. That is why a trace of jasmine can summon a summer in an instant, why the smell of a certain soap can return you to childhood, standing on a small stool at a sink, water running, a parent or grandparent's hands, moving gently beside yours. Some scientists sometimes call this the Proust phenomenon, after a writer who described how the smell and taste of a small cake dipped in tea brought back an entire world of memory. But you don't need the name. You already know the feeling. Scent is a bridge, an invisible thread stretched between now and then, here and there, this self and the selves you have been. When the scent in question comes from flowers, the bridge is often lined with softness. Think of lavender, fields of it stretching out, their purple quietness shimmering in the light. Or a small sprig tucked into a drawer, pressed between pages, resting in a linen pouch under a pillow. Lavender holds within it the chemistry that speaks gently to the human nervous system. When people breathe in its aroma, something subtle tends to happen. Their heart rate may slow just a little, their muscles may loosen, as if a tight knot in a rope has been softened by water. Researchers who watch brainwaves, those delicate electrical rhythms that rise and fall across the scalp, have noticed that after inhaling lavender, some people show a gentle increase in slower, more relaxed patterns. It's as if the mind begins to hum in a lower, calmer key. In sleep laboratories, volunteers have lain under soft blankets, wires attached lightly to their heads, the faint scent of lavender drifting through the air. Monitors quietly traced their brain activity. Through the night, on some of those nights, sleep came a bit easier. Deep, slow-wave sleep sometimes grew a little richer, like a darker color spreading into the fabric of their rest. Again, you don't have to remember which brainwaves did what, or which instruments measured them. All that matters here is the image, a human lying in the dark, breathing in the perfume of a small purple flower, and the oldest parts of their brain responding with a sigh of recognition. It is okay, those circuits seem to say. You can let go a little more. You can step back from the edge of alertness and sink into the softer ground of sleep. Then there is Rose. Roses have moved beside humans through so many rituals, birthdays, apologies, funerals, first dates, hospital visits. A single rose in a glass of water can change the feeling of an entire room. Its scent, sometimes sweet, sometimes green, sometimes with a note of something like honey or tea, seems to wrap the air in a memory of tenderness. In research that almost sounds like a fairy tale, scientists have asked people to smell a particular scent, like the smell of roses, while they were learning new things during the day. Later, while those same people slept, the researchers quietly reintroduced that same scent into the room. The sleeping brains, though deeply at rest, responded as if they recognized an old friend. The memories learned during the day seemed to settle in more firmly, as if the rose scent had become a bookmark placed gently in the pages of the mind. In brain scans, the regions responsible for storing memories, including that quiet seahorse, the hippocampus, showed small changes, like brief, shimmering lights, flickering as the brain refiled the day's events. You might think of it like this: rose scent drifting softly through the air is like a librarian moving silently through rows of shelves at night, slipping books into the right places, so that in the morning you can find what you need with just a little more ease. Again, you don't have to hold on to the details. What matters is the feeling that some scents, especially floral ones, can support the brain's gentle nightly work of sorting, healing, and letting go. Now, as you lie here, you might start to notice how your own life has been threaded with scents. Perhaps there was a particular flower in the garden of your childhood. Maybe you didn't even know its name, only that in early summer the air would suddenly change, growing thicker with sweetness, and that something in you would relax without even thinking about it. Or maybe there was a person who always smelled a certain way, of roses or lilies or a faint powdery violet, from a bottle on their dresser. When they held you, that scent wrapped itself around the feeling of being held. Now, years later, a similar fragrance in a passing crowd can make your chest ache with a strange mixture of longing and safety. This is how the limbic brain works. The amygdala doesn't store memories as neat facts or chronological lists. It remembers how things felt. Was this moment soft or sharp? Did I feel seen or alone? Was my body in danger or cared for? The hippocampus, sitting nearby, threads those feelings into the narrative of your life. It whispers to the rest of your brain, when you breathe in this smell, you are usually safe. You are usually loved. You are usually okay. So later, when a floral scent brushes past your senses, those old circuits light up. Sometimes this is deeply soothing. The nervous system hears the familiar chord of "I have been here before, and I was safe," and begins to soften its grip, as if leaning against an old trusted wall. One breath of lavender, and your shoulders drop a fraction of an inch. One whiff of rose, and your jaw remembers how not to clench. The muscles at the base of your skull loosen their hold, like fingers finally uncurling. It is not magic, though it can feel magical. It is biology woven with biography, your nervous system and your story, entwined like vines around the same trellis. Of course, not every scent is comforting. Some smells bring tears to the eyes, not because they are strong, but because of what they awaken. The perfume a loved one wore, who is no longer here. The faint floral disinfectant mixture of a hospital corridor. The blossoms that fell outside a window during a hard chapter of your life. It's normal if some floral scents carry sorrow or longing for you. Scent is honest that way. It doesn't filter or edit. It brings back what was, without checking whether you are ready. If a fragrance in your memory stirs grief more than calm, you have done nothing wrong. Your brain is simply showing you that certain flowers have been companions. In your most vulnerable hours, even these memories, over time and with gentleness, can become softer. Think of a sharp piece of sea glass, tossed in the waves year after year. At first it can cut, but as the ocean rolls it over and over, the edges begin to round. the glass stays, but it becomes smoother, safer to hold. Your limbic system can be like that ocean, given time, care, and a sense of safety. When a painful scent memory arises, you might imagine that you are standing a little farther away from it, watching the flower from a distance, instead of pressing it too close. You might even pair that memory with a different, gentler scent. Perhaps a new floral fragrance you have discovered as an adult that has no painful associations yet. Over time, your brain can begin to weave new patterns around old threads surrounding the sharpness, with softer fibers. And if all of that feels like too much for tonight, that's all right. You don't have to heal everything at once. You don't have to revisit any memory you're not ready to touch. You can simply rest with the scents that feel safe, even if they are only imagined. Because here is another quiet secret of the brain. Even when no actual fragrance is in the air, you can still call forth the ghost of a scent. If you like, you can try it now. Think gently of a flower whose smell you remember, maybe lavender or rose or jasmine at night, or even the simple green wetness of stems and leaves in a glass of water. Don't force it. If the scent doesn't come clearly, just imagine that it might. The way you might imagine the color blue in the dark. Notice what happens in your body as you invite that memory. Perhaps your nose tingles a little, perhaps you feel nothing at all, and that is perfectly fine. Even without vivid awareness, your brain is quietly reconstructing patterns, activating some of the same regions that would awaken if the air actually carried that perfume. Studies using brain imaging have shown that imagining a smell can activate parts of the olfactory network and stir activity in the limbic system. You are, in a very real sense, practicing the pathway to calm if you choose a scent that your nervous system recognizes as safe, a smell tied to warmth, rest, or gentleness. This inner practice can be like tracing a key in your pocket, even when you are not yet opening the door. Over time, some people use this connection as a nightly ritual. They might place a small sachet of dried lavender by their pillow, or a single drop of rose or chamomile on a piece of cloth at the bedside. Each night, as sleep approaches, they breathe in that same gentle scent. The limbic brain, quiet and watchful, begins to learn the pattern. This smell means we are safe enough to rest. This smell means the day is done, just as a lullaby sung over and over becomes a signal to the body, a sound that says it's time to soften now. A familiar floral fragrance can become a kind of aromatic lullaby whispered directly to the emotional brain. You don't need to do any of this deliberately. Even lying here, listening, you are already participating in something similar. With each slow breath, you can imagine that the air itself is laced with a mild, kind perfume, a mixture of all the flowers that have ever comforted you. Maybe it smells like a garden after rain, where petals are heavier with water and the earth sighs up its green, dark scent. Maybe it smells like a single rose on a windowsill at dusk, its fragrance delicate, almost hesitant. Maybe it smells like a hand lotion someone once rubbed into your fingers while you talked about nothing in particular. As you breathe, this imagined perfume moves in and out of you, a tide of remembrance, washing the shores of your limbic brain. The amygdala, always on guard, starts to see that, in this moment, no dangers pressing at the door. The hippocampus, keeper of stories, settles down beside it, with a quieter book. Together they begin to rock you, in a cradle made not of wood, but of associations, of all the times you survived, all the nights you made it through, all the mornings you woke, to see flowers still blooming somewhere, even if only in a small crack of sunlight. You have carried so much. Your nose, your lungs, your brain, they have been with you. For every chapter, they remember more than you know. Floral scents, even in memory, can rise up like tiny, fragrant keys. Inside this tender archive, unlocking cabinets of calm you may have forgotten were there. You are not required to catalogue or understand them all. You don't have to organize your inner library tonight. It is enough to know that somewhere deep inside, there are rooms full of softness, summer evenings, quiet windowsills, hands holding flowers beside hospital beds, fields humming with bees above lavender rows, and with every slow, patient breath, the perfume of remembering can drift through those rooms, dusting off small moments of safety and warmth, reminding your limbic brain that alongside all the hard things, there were also gentler things, and that you are allowed to lean into those now. You have survived so much, more than your waking mind may ever fully acknowledge. As you lie here, held by the dark, you might let those unseen floral notes wrap around you like a blanket, one woven from scents and stories, from petals and neurons, from the invisible chemistry of air and emotion. If sleep comes, it can come like a garden at night, flowers closing and opening in their own time, sending out faint breaths of fragrance to the stars. If wakefulness lingers, that is all right too. You are still allowed to rest in this space between, breathing in the soft, remembered perfume of all the times you have been okay, and all the ways your brain is still trying to cradle you toward peace. If you could become small enough to step onto the edge of a single petal, like a traveler arriving in a new country of color and silk, you would find that it is not random at all. From far away, a flower might seem like a simple burst of color, a soft circle, a blur of beauty. But up close, very close, there is a quiet mathematics at work, curves folding into curves, lines echoing themselves again and again, spirals nested inside spirals, like secrets tucked inside other secrets. Nature's signature, written not in numbers or symbols, but in soft geometry and unfolding blooms. Tonight, as you rest, we'll wander into that geometry together, not with rulers or calculations, but with the slow, drifting gaze of someone who has all the time in the world. We'll let the mind follow the shapes that flowers make, and beneath those shapes, the way your brain responds to them. How, without you ever meaning to, it relaxes in the presence of this gentle order. You don't need to sit up or focus. You can stay just as you are, eyes heavy or closed, body held by the surface beneath you. We're going to walk very slowly through the hidden patterns of petals and leaves. Somewhere, a scientist might call them fractals. Fractals are patterns that repeat at different scales. When you zoom in, you see a shape that looks a little like the bigger shape. And if you zoom in again, you see it once more. Similar, but never exactly the same. It's like looking at a coastline from an airplane, then from a hill, then from the sand itself. Each view reveals new detail, yet the general curve stays familiar. A rhythm echoed across sizes. In the world of flowers, fractals appear quietly, like shy guests at a party who end up being the most interesting people in the room. Imagine a sunflower. At the center, a spiral of seeds, curling inward towards some invisible middle. Look closer, and you see not just one spiral, but many, spiraling one way, spiraling the other, interlocking in a complex yet strangely calm dance. If you could shrink yourself down and walk along those rows of seeds, you would notice that the pattern repeats, small arcs building into larger curves, each seed taking its place, in an arrangement that looks almost too perfect to be accidental, and yet it grew on its own, with no engineer standing over it, only sunlight, water, and time. Scientists have discovered that these sunflower spirals tend to follow certain numerical relationships, ratios that show up again and again in nature, in pine cones, in shells, even in the whirling arms of galaxies. But you don't need the numbers. Your eyes know the pattern already. They recognize the rightness of it, without any math at all. Now picture a rose. From far away, it is simply a bloom. But if you imagine yourself standing at the very center, looking out from the heart of the flower, you'd see petals layered like waves, each one slightly offset from the last, spiraling outward in a soft repeating rhythm, fold after fold, curl after curl, the same general shape, reappearing at different distances from the core. This is fractal too. Repetition with variation, order wrapped in softness. Even a simple daisy hides this quiet repetition. Its central disk is not a flat yellow dot, but a field of tiny florets, each one a miniature flower of its own, clustered together to form the larger bloom. Zoom in far enough, and the daisy becomes a galaxy of tiny suns in orbit, each with its own structure, its own echo of flowerness. The veins of leaves, too, follow branching patterns, splitting and splitting again into smaller and smaller rivers of green. The main vein runs like a central trunk. From it, smaller veins branch off, and from those, even finer lines, delivering water and nutrients, all the way out to the delicate edges. Branches from branches, lines from lines, a tree within a leaf, a river delta made of living tissue. The word fractal might sound sharp or technical, but the thing itself is tender, familiar, everywhere. Your lungs, for example, are fractal. Inside your chest, airways branch and branch again, from windpipe to bronchi to bronchioles, to tiny air sacs called alveoli, each division multiplying the surface area through which you can trade breath for life. Your blood vessels are fractal. Your neurons too, with their forest of branches and twigs, receiving signals here, sending them there. You are, in so many ways, made of repeating patterns. So when your eyes rest on the repeating patterns of flowers, their spirals, their branches, their petals within petals, something in you recognizes the kinship, somewhere in your visual brain. This gentle order feels familiar. It feels like home. Researchers who study this have invited people into rooms and shown them different kinds of images. Some of the pictures are flat, simple shapes, perfect squares, plain stripes, solid color blocks. Others are very chaotic, visual noise, cluttered, jagged lines, all jumbled together. And then there are images of nature's fractals, the branching of trees, the spreading fans of ferns, the spirals in flowers and shells, clouds, coastlines, the veining of leaves. As people look at these pictures, scientists measure tiny changes, heart rate, skin conductance arc of rest, and the activity of brain waves. Again and again, a pattern emerges. The simple, flat shapes don't agitate the brain, but they don't soothe it very deeply either. It's like staring at a blank wall, not disturbing, but not particularly comforting. The chaotic images can make the nervous system tense up, micro signs of stress, as if the brain is saying, this is too much, too hard to pass, too unpredictable. But the fractal patterns of nature, including those we find in flowers, tend to have a different effect. When people look at these images, the stress signals often go down. The heart finds a softer rhythm. The tiny electrical ripples in the brain shift toward calmer waves. In particular, you can imagine gentle alpha waves beginning to glide over the surface of the cortex. Those are brain rhythms, often associated with relaxed wakefulness, the sort of calm attentiveness you might feel just before sleep or while gazing at waves on the shore. One researcher once described it as the brain seeming to resonate with these natural fractal patterns, like a tuning fork, ringing with the right note. You don't have to remember the term alpha waves or anything about those experiments. All you need is the feeling that when your eyes or your mind's eye meet a certain kind of patterned complexity, not too plain, not too messy, your nervous system responds with a softening. It is as if the brain thinks, here is something I know how to read. Consider how this fits with everyday life. At one extreme, there is visual emptiness, a bare, pale wall, a ceiling tile with no variation, an empty grey corridor. Stare at this too long, and the mind can drift into a kind of restlessness. There is not enough for it to hold on to, not enough texture to gently occupy its gaze. At the other extreme, there is clutter and chaos. Too many objects, too many sharp angles, too many bright colors shouting at once. This can feel overwhelming. The brain trying to track 100 lines of visual information, never quite settling on any one of them long enough to relax. Between these two extremes, there is a middle ground, what you might call just right richness. Fractal patterns often live there. They are complex, but not chaotic, organized, but not rigid. Think of listening to a lullaby. It is not silence. There are notes, rising and falling, but the pattern is gentle, predictable enough that your body can anticipate where the melody will go next. This predictability, sprinkled with small variations, is precisely what soothes. Fractal geometry in flowers is like a visual lullaby. Your eyes follow the repetition, petal after petal, curve after curve, and your brain begins to hum along in its own quiet way. You might imagine now that you're standing at the edge of a meadow at dusk. The day is slowing, colors softening. Around you, flowers of many kinds are turning their faces to the last of the light. You step closer to one bloom, a simple daisy. At first, it is simply a flower, but as you bring your attention in, you see its design unfold. The ring of white petals around the edge, each one shaped like a small tear of light. Within that ring, the yellow center, not a flat disk at all, but a field of tiny clusters, a spiral of miniature florets. You follow that spiral inward, with your mind like tracing the path of a slow river on a map. There is no rush, no demand, just shape after shape repeating, changing slightly as you move, keeping your attention lightly engaged. Your brain loves this. There is enough pattern to predict what comes next, so it doesn't have to stay on high alert. But there is also enough detail to keep it from drifting into boredom. The result is a kind of gentle occupation. The mind has something to do, and in that doing, it relaxes. This is one reason why healing spaces, hospitals, therapy rooms, places where people recover from illness or heartbreak, often use images of flowers, trees, and other fractal patterns on their walls. At first glance, it might look like decoration, like someone just wanted the room to be pretty, but beneath that, there is growing awareness that these images can act like quiet medicine for the nervous system. A window that looks onto trees, a painting of a field of flowers, curtains with leafy patterns, bed sheets dotted with roses. All of these offer the eye something to rest on that carries the brain toward calm. In some studies, patients in hospital rooms that included natural views or floral art recovered a bit faster, needed less pain medication, and reported feeling more at ease. Again, it is not magic, and it does not erase suffering, but it tilts the balance slightly toward resilience. It gives the mind a small anchor of order. In the middle of difficulty, as you listen now, you might notice how your own thoughts sometimes feel less like a flower and more like a tangled ball of string. The worries, the what-ifs, the things you wish you had said, the things you are afraid might happen. It is normal for the inner world to feel chaotic, especially at the end of a long day. But inside your brain, beneath the surface of those thoughts, there is also organization. Networks of neurons, firing in coordinated patterns, clusters of activity rising and falling, with their own natural rhythm. If you could look at a map of your brain's activity, over time, you might find that it too has a fractal quality. Bursts of activity, nested within larger bursts, rests within rests, a rhythm within a rhythm. Chaos, when viewed from close up, can begin to reveal its pattern. Just as the tangled branches of a tree still follow a basic branching rule: divide, then divide again, reaching always for light. Your thoughts and feelings, in their own way, are reaching for understanding, for meaning, for safety. When you gaze at a flower, or picture one in your mind, you are offering your brain a simpler external pattern to synchronize with. You might imagine your inner tangle of thoughts slowing down, not disappearing, but moving more in time. With the steady spirals of petals, the steady branching of leaves. In this way, the geometry in front of you, or in your imagination, becomes a kind of map, a map back to inner order. You do not have to force your mind to become still. You can allow it instead to gently entrain to the calm patterns it is observing, the way a set of small pendulums eventually swing in sync when they hang from the same support. If you'd like, you can now picture one particular flower in detail. Choose any one that feels gentle to you, perhaps a rose, blossoming slowly in the half-light. See the first petal, curved in on itself, a small boat of color. Then notice the next layer, and the next, each petal overlapping the last. Each one a slightly larger echo of the one before. You might imagine walking along the edge of one petal as it sweeps around the center, like walking along a soft, spiraling path in a garden. Your inner gaze follows this path without hurry, and as it does, part of your mind is occupied in the simplest way. Trace, breathe, trace, breathe. If the rose doesn't feel right, you can choose another flower, a lotus opening on still water, its petals unfolding like quiet hands, or a cluster of tiny blossoms, forming one larger sphere of color, each small shape contributing to the whole. Whatever you choose, let yourself feel the calm repetition in its design. If other thoughts intrude, lists, regrets, plans, you can notice them kindly, as if they are birds flying overhead, and then gently lower your gaze back to the petal path. This is not a test, there is no way to fail. Each return to the pattern is another step along the map toward a quieter inner room somewhere deep in your brain. Cells are firing in ordered sequences. Alpha waves may be swelling and subsiding like slow surf. Networks are coordinating and recoordinating, finding balance moment by moment. You do not have to manage this orchestration, you only have to allow it. Flowers with their fractal geometry are like sheet music. For this inner orchestra, visual scores that the brain can play in calming keys. even if your own life feels disorganized right now, even if your emotions feel like scattered papers on a floor. Know that beneath that layer, there is a tendency toward pattern in nature, in your neural tissue, in the way your thoughts eventually circle back to what matters most. You are not separate from the quiet mathematics of the world. You are made of it. And just as the sunflower cannot force its seeds into perfect position, but simply grows into its spiral, over time, you do not have to force your mind into perfect stillness tonight. You can simply offer it these images of gentle order: petals, spirals, branches, and let the deeper parts of you take what they need. As you drift, perhaps you can imagine a field of flowers inside your mind, each one a small expression of repeating beauty. Somewhere among them is a bloom whose pattern matches your own rhythm of calm. A flower that, when you look at it, feels like a mirror of your best restful self. You may not see it clearly, but it is there, waiting patiently, like a still point in the turning of the world. Beneath the noise, beneath the tangle, your mind knows how to form gentle shapes of calm. Tonight, you are simply remembering that truth by walking slowly through the geometry of petals and peace. Color is quiet, but it is never silent. Even now, with your eyes perhaps closed or half closed, some part of you still remembers color. The way soft pink can feel like a whisper, how deep green can feel like being held, how certain blues seem to open a window somewhere inside your chest. You carry a whole palette inside you, even in the dark. Tonight, we drift through that inner palette of petals and the way their hues speak gently to your nervous system, not in words, but in wavelengths and feelings. You don't have to strain to follow. Let this come the way colors do, arriving quietly, settling over you like light on a wall, changing the atmosphere without making a sound. Somewhere in front of your face, even if your eyes are closed, is the space you usually use to see the world. When you are awake in the day, light flows into that space like a river, tiny packets of energy rushing toward you from the sun, from lamps and screens and sky. Those packets come in different lengths, different flavors of light. Some are long, warming the world with reds and oranges. Some are shorter, holding the crispness of blue and violet. Your eyes receive all of this without you ever having to ask them to. At the back of each eye, spread out like a film in an old camera, is your retina, a thin layer of living tissue that catches light and begins to translate it. There are special cells there called cones that help you see color. Some respond more to longer wavelengths, the reds and oranges. Some respond most eagerly to mid-range greens. Others are tuned to shorter wavelengths, blues and violets. Together, they form a kind of silent choir, each type of cone singing more loudly. When its preferred light arrives, your brain listens to the pattern of that choir, and, without you ever noticing the calculations, turns it into the experience of color: rose pink, leaf green, sky blue. You don't see wavelengths, you feel them as moods. Flowers have evolved. Inside this light-saturated world, their colors are not random decoration. Petals become billboards for bees and butterflies, signals of pollen and nectar. But for you, they have also become something else: emotional weather. A field of yellow tulips can feel like bottled daylight. A bush of soft lilac blooms can feel like a sigh. A deep red rose can feel like a heartbeat made visible. Somewhere in the back of your brain, your visual systems are working, taking the raw information of color and weaving it into meaning. What's gentle is this: They work a little less hard when the colors they meet belong to the natural world. When your eyes look out over soft greens, the leaves of trees, the grass of a park, the stems and foliage beneath flowers, the circuits of vision and attention can relax. Green occupies a middle place in light spectrum, and your cones are especially attuned to it. In many ways, your visual system is at home in green, because for most of human history, green has meant safety, plants, food, water, life. Studies quietly show that when people spend time in green spaces, gardens, forests, even rooms, with plants and nature images, their nervous system shows signs of ease. Blood pressure lowers a little, stress hormones soften, heart rhythms become more varied, more flexible. You don't have to recall the science, you have probably felt it, the way your eyes seem to rest when they settle on trees, or the moss on a stone. Petals often emerge from within that sea of green, like small lanterns, points of color, drawing the gaze gently. Think of a pale pink blossom against dark leaves. The contrast is there, but it isn't harsh. The pink doesn't shout, it glows. Pastel colors, softened and desaturated, ask less of the eyes. When a color is very intense, pure neon red or electric blue, the cones must fire strongly, and the brain must work to manage that intensity. Alerts rise, attention sharpens, as if something important is happening. Bright artificial lights, neon signs, glowing screens, they carry these intense colors into the night, telling your ancient biology, stay awake. There is still something to do. The world is not finished yet. It makes sense then that at the end of the day, after hours of staring into devices and bright indoor lighting, your system can feel confused, your body is tired, but your internal clock has been bathed in daytime signals, deep in your brain, in a tiny region behind your eyes. Called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, your circadian clock is ticking. This clock listens carefully to light, especially to short, bluish wavelengths. Your retina doesn't just have cones and rods, it also holds special cells, intrinsically photosensitive retinal ganglion cells that respond strongly to blue light and send signals straight to that inner clock. When they detect bright bluish light, they tell your system, it is daytime, be alert. Hold back the melatonin, the hormone that helps you feel ready for sleep, so when you look at bright screens at night, or sit under very cool white lamps, you are, in a way, whispering morning. To your clock, even if it's already late, flowers do something different. Their blues and purples are often softer, muted, more like twilight made visible than midday sky painted on a petal. Think of the cool lavender of a field as the sun begins to descend, or the deep violet of pansies in the fading light. These tones do not slam into your visual system. They arrive like dusk, slow, gentle, edges blurring, details softening. Some flowers even choose twilight as their hour. There are blossoms that open as the day cools, night-blooming jasmine, evening primrose, flowers that unfurl as the sky turns indigo. Their colors often harmonize with the hour, whites that glow in low light, pale blues, soft purples that deepen with the sky. Somewhere deep in your mind, scenes like these have become symbols of transition, little visual rituals, marking the shift from doing to being, from guarding to letting go. It's not just in nature. Humans have echoed this pattern in the ways we design. Spaces of rest, bedrooms painted in muted tones, sheets in soft pastels, curtains in creams and dusty roses, lamps with warm golden light. Designers and therapists, intuitively or by research, often choose floral-inspired tones for places where people need to feel safe, soft blues for calmness, pale greens for healing, gentle pinks for tenderness. When people are asked to describe calming colors, they rarely choose harsh neon or stark black and white. They reach instead for the language of blossoms, rose, lavender, peach, sage, lilac. These are flower words, petal words, words of colors that exhale. Color therapy, though not a rigid science, rests on a simple truth. Our nervous systems respond to the atmosphere of color around us. Warm colors, oranges, soft corals, certain reds, can feel cozy, like a fire at dusk. Cool colors, blues, teals, violets, can feel spacious, like an open sky or deep water. Too much warmth, and a room can feel intense, almost agitating. Too much cool, and it may feel distant, impersonal. Again, there is a middle ground, just as with patterns. Soft versions of either, like the flush of a peach rose or the powdery blue of hydrangeas, offer emotional cues without overwhelm. What matters most is how they feel to you. For one person, yellow might be joy. For another, it might be too sharp, too close to caution signs and warning lights. For one person, deep red flowers might feel sensual and grounding. For another, they might stir memories they'd rather let sleep. There are no rigid universal rules here, only tendencies and your own private palette. It's normal if your inner world feels a little grayscale at times. Stress, sadness, exhaustion, they can drain color from the way life feels, even if your eyes still see every shade just fine. Moments that once glowed may feel flat. Things that used to sparkle may now look muted, as if someone has turned down the saturation knob on your experience. If that's where you are, there is nothing wrong with you. The brain, when tired or hurting, sometimes protects itself by dimming the lights a little, making the world easier to bear. Even then, you still carry the memory of color. You might not feel the full emotion of a red rose right now, but you can remember what that color once meant to you. You can hold in your mind the image of a field of lavender, even if the scent and feeling of it are faint. This is enough, because even the imagined hue of a flower activates parts of the visual brain, not as strongly as real light, but enough to stir the edges of sensation. If you'd like, you can try that now. Without straining, let a single flower's color come to mind. Perhaps a blush pink rose, its edges flirting with white. The color of first tenderness, almost shy. Or a gentle, cool lavender stretched across a hillside under a sky sliding into evening. Or a pale yellow daffodil, soft as early morning, not the sharp yellow of warning, but the buttery yellow of welcome. See if any color arrives on its own. If it doesn't, that is perfectly fine. You can simply listen and borrow these petals for now. Imagine that color like a small light in the darkness behind your eyes. Notice the way it feels, not just the way it looks. Does the pink feel warm, as if it's coming from inside you, rather than from outside? Does the lavender feel cool and spacious, like a deep breath you didn't know you needed? Does the soft green of a stem feel grounding, like a hand on your back, reminding you that you are here, on solid ground? As you breathe in, you might imagine drawing that color gently toward you, as if the air itself is tinted with it. As you breathe out, you can imagine that the color softens, spreading through your body like diluted paint in water, reaching the places that feel tight, bringing a faint warmth or coolness, whatever feels needed, in through the nose, a petal of color, out through the mouth or nose, that color drifting down, through shoulders, chest, belly, all the way to your fingertips and toes. There is no right way to picture it. You might see it clearly, like a vivid painting. Or you might only sense it, a suggestion, a temperature, a mood. That is enough. Your circadian system, your inner clock, is always listening for cues about when to wake and when to rest. Light is its main language. But over time, your brain has also learned to associate certain colors with certain times of day. The harsh blue-white of midday means go, do, act. The golden ambers of late afternoon means slow, consider, begin to wind down. The purple blues of twilight mean soon, you may let go. Flowers sit inside these colors, like small translators. The pale morning blooms that open with the first light whisper beginning to your system. The heavily saturated reds and oranges, seen in full sun, say activity, energy, aliveness, but the flowers you meet, in the soft light of evening, the ones glowing with washed-out pinks, the ones whose whites turn blue at the edges, the violets and indigos deepening in shadow, carry the emotional message of closing. You can borrow this for your own internal sky. When night comes, but your thoughts still blaze, like a noon sun, you can begin, slowly, gently, to imagine replacing some of those inner bright whites and neons with more twilight tones. Picture the glaring white of a screen, fading to the creamy petals of a magnolia. Imagine the electric blue of daytime urgency, softening into the dusty blue of hydrangeas at dusk. Let the stop sign red of stress dissolve into the muted rose of a petal floating in water. You are, in a way, repainting the inside of your mind, not to deny what is hard, not to erase reality, but to create a small, private room inside it, where the colors are kinder. Designers do this, with actual rooms, choosing colors for walls and fabrics, to build spaces that feel like exhalations. You can do it too, in the space behind your eyes. When you think of your inner landscape right now, the place where your thoughts move, what color does it have? If it feels gray, that's all right. You can imagine, if you wish, placing a single flower in that gray room, maybe a white lily, maybe a quiet lilac sprig, maybe a tiny blue forget-me-not. See its color shining gently against the neutral background. It doesn't have to fill the whole space, it can just sit there, like a candle in a darkened hallway, altering the atmosphere in a subtle way. Over time, you might add more. A pale green leaf in one corner, a soft peach rose in another, until you have, in your mind, a small bouquet, a private collection of colors that exhale. Each night, before sleep, you could visit this bouquet. You could change it, depending on what you need. On restless nights, lavenders and deep blues. On hurting nights, gentle pinks and creams. On numb nights, a single, very real green, a promise of life beneath the snow. Your brain, sensitive as it is to the language of color, will listen. As you construct these hues inside, the parts of your nervous system that monitor safety, that decide whether to keep you ready or let you rest, receive another layer of message. It is evening here now. The bright demands of day are finished. The colors have softened. You may soften too, somewhere deep in the mind. The clock hears this. It feels the absence of harsh, bluish glare. It notices the emotional twilight. You are creating, slowly, like a flower. Closing its petals at night, your own systems begin to follow. Melatonin, that sleepy hormone, can rise more freely. When your eyes are not soaking in artificial daytime, your breathing may slow. your muscles may unclench. A little more with each imagined wash of color. You do not need to measure any of this. You do not need to track it with charts or numbers. You can simply feel that somewhere between the world outside and the world inside, petal hues are helping, gently, invisibly. Color is quiet, but it speaks. In the soft rose of being cared for, in the green of enoughness, in the blue-violet of letting go. Tonight, if you wish, you can let your last waking act be a simple one, to choose the colors you'd like to fall asleep in, not on your walls, not in your clothes, but in the sky of your mind. A bouquet of dusk tones, arranged just for you. Hues that exhale slowly, wrapping your nervous system. In the message, the day is closing now, you have done enough. You may step out of the bright light and walk calmly into the blue-violet quiet of night. Long before humans drew numbers on circles and hung them on walls, long before digital screens glowed midnight blue, the world was already keeping time. The sea moved in and out, the moon waxed and waned, birds knew when to sing, leaves knew when to fall, and flowers. Flowers were some of the most patient clocks of all. If you could watch a single meadow, from before dawn until deep in the night, speeding the hours up like a soft, quiet movie, you would see that it is never truly still. Some blooms open with the very first pale light, petals stretching as if they too have just woken from a long sleep. Others wait, holding themselves closed, until the sun climbs higher, until the air grows warm enough for bees to begin their heavy, buzzing rounds. There are blossoms that close at noon, petals folding like tired hands, taking a midday rest. And there are flowers that ignore the day almost entirely, waiting instead for the sky to darken, for the stars to step out, for moonlight and moth wings to arrive. In this way, flowers divide the day into a sequence of openings and closings, breathings in and out. They respond to the same sky you do. They feel the turning of the earth under them, even though they never move from where they are rooted. Tonight, we wander into the shared rhythms of flowers and the human body, into the quiet science of circadian clocks. You don't need to remember that word, circadian. It simply means about a day, a rhythm that takes roughly one rotation of the earth to complete its cycle. Every living thing, from tiny algae floating in the sea, to tall trees in ancient forests, from field flowers to the cells in your own skin, carries some version of this daily pulse somewhere inside a plant, in the small humming machinery of its cells. There are molecules that act a bit like timekeepers. They are sensitive to light, to its presence and its absence, to its quality and its angle. When morning light touches the plant, certain chemical switches are flipped on, like lanterns being lit in a series. These molecules begin a slow cascade of changes. Genes are activated, proteins are built, tiny instructions are passed along, telling leaves to spread, stomata to open and drinking carbon dioxide, petals to begin uncurling, in preparation for the business of the day. Later, as the sun arcs down and the light softens, other switches begin to flip. Different genes awaken, others grow quiet, sugars are stored away. Metabolism shifts, petals fold in on themselves, protecting delicate parts from the cool night air. The plant is not thinking, not deciding in the way you do, but in its own wordless language. It knows. Now is the time for opening. Now is the time for resting. Now is the time for stretching upward. Now is the time for waiting. Some flowers have become so consistent in their timing that humans, watching closely, once used them as living clocks. There is an old idea, traced back to the Swedish naturalist Carl Linnaeus, of a floral clock, a garden laid out in such a way that you could tell the time of day by which species were open. Certain flowers might unfurl around 5 in the morning, welcoming first light. Others would join them at 8, at 10, and so on, until midday reached its full chorus of color. Later, the early risers would close, their petals folding in tired satisfaction, and afternoon flowers would take the stage. By evening, only the night bloomers remained, their pale or fragrant petals, calling to moths and bats in the dark. You can imagine Linnaeus walking through such a garden, his steps slow, eyes half on the plants, and half on some inner sense of wonder, listening to time expressed, not in ticks or numbers, but in openings and closings. The idea of a perfect floral clock is more poetry than precision. Weather and seasons and latitude and soil can all shift a flower's schedule by an hour here or there. But the image remains that living things, simply by following their own rhythms, could mark the passage of a day. You too carry a floral clock inside you, not of petals, but of cells and signals and tiny pulses of light. Deep in your brain, right behind the bridge of your nose. And slightly above it sits a cluster of about 20,000 neurons, called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. The sen. You can imagine it as a very small, very old clock tower in the center of a vast city of brain tissue. This little cluster of cells receives direct information about the light in your world. When photons, those tiny packets of light, enter your eyes, they don't just create images, they also stimulate special receptors that send a simpler message. Straight to the skin. Is it bright? Is it dim? Is it day? Is it night? The skin listens carefully. Based on what it hears, it sends out instructions to the rest of the body. When light is strong, especially bluish light, like midday sky or glowing screens, the skin whispers, "Stay awake, hold off on melatonin, keep body temperature up, keep the metabolic fires burning as the light fades," especially if the fading is slow and not abruptly replaced. By artificial brightness, the skin changes its tune, dim the systems, cool the body a little, release the melatonin now, let it flow from the pineal gland. Like a gentle chemical dusk through the bloodstream, melatonin doesn't knock you out. It is more like a curator, dimming the gallery lights, asking for quiet, inviting the nervous system to move from sharp attention into something softer, all through your tissues. Other tiny clocks are listening in your liver, your heart, your muscles, even in your skin. Each organ has its own daily rhythm, its own sense of when to be most active, when to repair, when to rest. The sen is like the conductor of an orchestra. When light cues arrive on time, the instruments can play in sync. Digestion, hormone release, alertness, and sleepiness all follow predictable curves. You feel then a sense of alignment. Sleep arrives closer to when you lie down. Waking feels more like rising with the sun and less like dragging yourself out of a deep cave. But life, especially modern life, does not always give the skin clear, consistent cues. We stay up late under bright lights. We scroll through phones in bed, bathing our inner clock in the language of noon. Even as the night grows heavy outside, we fly across time zones, work irregular shifts, eat at odd hours, and worry under artificial suns. It's normal, given all this, if your inner clock has felt off, if sleep has been elusive, if nights have stretched too long, if you have found yourself wide awake at 3 in the morning, while the rest of the world seems to be dreaming. You are not broken. You are a living being, trying to keep time in a world that often forgets how much we depend on cycles. Here is where flowers can become quiet companions, because even as we twist our personal schedules into strange shapes outside, the plants go on, following their own faithful arcs. Somewhere right now, as you listen, night-blooming flowers are opening. There are moonflowers, large white blossoms that remain tightly furled all day, then suddenly unfold in the evening, like bright, silent fireworks. There is night-blooming jasmine, small and star-shaped, its fragrance intensifying after dark, sending invisible signals to moths that navigate by scent and starlight. There are evening primroses, whose yellow petals uncurl at twilight, their soft glow almost lantern-like. In the dim, in deserts, there are cacti that save their extravagant blooms for a few cool hours of the night when the risk of losing water is less, and nocturnal pollinators stir from their hiding places. These flowers are not failing. By opening at the wrong time, they are following their own version of right. They, too, sense light and dark. They, too, have inner chemical clocks that anticipate dusk and dawn. For them, day is a time of restraint, night a time of fullness. There is a kind of comfort in knowing this, especially if you find yourself awake when others sleep. You might imagine that while most flowers close their delicate faces, some keep vigil with you, spreading their petal into the same darkness you inhabit, trusting that morning will still come, just as these blooms respond to environmental cues, gradual changes in light, shifts in temperature. Your own clock can be soothed back into rhythm with gentle, repeated signals. Bright light in the morning, if you can find it, is like sunrise. For the Sen, it says, "Here is the new day. Let us begin aligning." Dim light in the evening, shutting off harsh overhead bulbs, putting screens to sleep before you try to, is like the soft fading of sky to blue and then to black. Small rituals can act as time cues too. Things you do in roughly the same order each night. A warm drink, washing your face, brushing your teeth with the same deliberate care, lying down in a familiar position, listening to a certain kind of story, one that moves slowly, full of images and softness. Each repetition tells your body, we are heading into night now. Even if thoughts are busy, even if emotions are loud, the external pattern is gentle, steady. Over days and weeks, the inner clock can begin to read these signals more easily, just as a flower needs several cycles of day and night to synchronize fully with its environment. You too may need time for your rhythms to settle. There may be setbacks, nights when stress surges, when sleep doesn't come. Even though you have done everything right, on those nights it might help to remember, even in the most carefully timed botanical garden, weather sometimes interrupts the schedule. Clouds cover the sun, winds bend stems, cold snaps delay blossoms. Still, the deeper tendency is always toward rhythm, toward cycle, waking and resting, blooming and withdrawing, stretching to the light, and then folding inward. These are not signs of weakness, they are the very shape of life. Think of the way your own day goes, even on a small scale. There are hours when your mind is sharp, capable, outward-facing, and then there are hours when you want nothing more than to curl inward, to be quiet, to stop performing. We live in a culture that often praises the bright, blooming hours and treats the folded ones as something to push past, But flowers teach a different lesson. They close, to protect themselves, to rest, to conserve energy for when it will be most useful. They do not apologize for needing the night. Your body doesn't need apology either. It needs kindness and the steady reassurance that it is allowed to follow its tides. If your nights have felt too long lately, if sleeplessness has made you feel apart from everyone else, you might imagine, just for now, that you are walking slowly through a garden at midnight. Around you, some flowers are dark shapes folded tight, others are wide open, their petals like small moons suspended in the air. The air is cooler, sounds are softer. The usual daytime busyness, cars, voices, tools, has faded into the background hum of insects and leaves. Up above, stars mark their own ancient circuits across the sky. You wander between these night-blooming clocks, feeling a little more like you belong to something larger than your own restless thoughts. You are another living thing, awake in the dark, not separate from nature, but woven through it. Somewhere in your chest, your own slow clock ticks on, still trying, still learning how to listen to the dance of light and shadow. You might place your hand lightly over your heart and feel that rhythm, beat after beat, unfolding in time. Even if your sleep has been uneven, your heart has never stopped, marking the seconds for you. It has been with you through every misaligned morning, every too late night, every dawn you met. From the wrong side of sleep, it will be with you as you find your way back to something softer. You don't have to fix your entire circadian system tonight. You don't have to become a perfect flower opening exactly at sunrise. You can start smaller than that, by noticing the way your own energy rises and falls, by dimming a light 5 minutes earlier than yesterday, by letting your last scream go dark just a little sooner, leaving more room for dusk to gather inside you, by returning, if you like, to stories and images that celebrate night, not as an error, but as half of the whole. As you lie here now, you might imagine that beyond your walls, wherever you live, some plant is responding to this same hour. A tree adjusting its leaves, grass cooling in the absence of sun, a small, almost unnoticed weed by a roadside, following its own uncompromising schedule. And somewhere, a night-blooming flower unfurls. It doesn't know that you are awake. It doesn't know of anxiety or insomnia or blue-lit rooms. It simply knows that the air has shifted, that darkness has thickened just enough that the time encoded in its cells has arrived. It opens, petals bend outward, exposing fragrance, offering nectar, doing in the night what other flowers do in the day. There is a quiet solidarity in that, a reminder that your wakefulness now places you in the company of certain blooms, certain creatures, certain stars. You are not entirely out of step. You are part of a different movement in the same dance. And just as dawn will come for that flower, encouraging it to close again, another dawn will also come for you, inviting your body over and over to keep learning, to keep trusting that rest is possible. Tonight, you are allowed to drift in and out like a petal in a small, slow current. If sleep comes soon, you can welcome it like a cool, dark garden you've been walking toward all along. If it takes its time, you can rest anyway, in your breathing, in the rhythm of your heart, in the knowledge that somewhere right now. Flowers are quietly proving that cycles can repair themselves, that clocks can find their beat again, that night can be a place of opening, not just of absence. You too carry the capacity to trust the night, to be held by it little by little until your own inner petals feel safe enough to loosen and close and dream. You do not need a single real flower in the room to feel the mind's response to a garden. Even here, wherever you are, with walls and ceilings and the familiar shapes of your own space around you, there is another place you can go without moving at all. A place that lives just behind your eyes, beneath your thoughts, where imagination and biology meet in a quiet truce. In this final stretch of the night, we'll walk there together, into the inner landscape, into the garden of your own mind. You don't have to see it perfectly. You don't have to be good at imagining. You only have to be willing to let images, or even just feelings, rise and fall like slow, gentle waves. Because somewhere deep in your brain, there is a simple, astonishing truth. The way you picture the world can touch many of the same circuits as the way you perceive it. When you close your eyes and recall the face of someone you love, the parts of your brain that process faces light up softly, almost as if that person were really there. When you imagine walking down a beach, the networks that track space and movement whisper into life, drawing quiet maps in the darkness. And when you picture a flower, its colors, its textures, its scent, and its weight in your hand, some of the same pathways that respond to real petals begin to murmur awake. The visual areas at the back of your brain, the emotional centers deeper inside, the networks that weave senses into stories, they all pay attention to inner pictures, as well as to outer ones. This is why guided imagery, especially of natural places, of forests and rivers and, yes, gardens, has been found to ease anxiety, lower heart rate, and soften the long, careful descent into sleep. It is as if the body listens, not only to what your eyes report, but also to what your mind quietly proposes. Here is where we are now. Here is what surrounds us. Here is how safe it feels. You can offer it different answers to that question, even in the middle of the night, without opening a single door. If you'd like, you might begin by noticing your breathing again. No effort, no change, just awareness. Air moving in, air moving out. Each exhale, a small letting go. Each inhale, a small invitation. As you rest in that rhythm, imagine that somewhere within you, there is a gate, not a heavy gate, not a locked one, perhaps just a low arch of branches, or a gap between two stones, or a wooden door slightly ajar. On the other side is a garden that belongs only to you. You have never had to plant it. It has been growing quietly. Throughout your life, every time a small, beautiful moment took root inside you. The first time you saw a flower close up as a child, or traced the pattern on a wallpaper, or leaned close to smell a rose in someone's front yard. Every bouquet you ever received, every blossom you noticed and forgot, every picture of a meadow or forest or window box, they all left tiny seeds in you. Tonight, we're simply walking among what has grown. You step through the gate in your own time. Maybe you don't see much at first. Maybe it feels more like a sense than an image, a hunch of greenery, an impression of open space. That's all right. The brain doesn't always draw in sharp lines. Sometimes it sketches in soft charcoal, leaving edges blurry, shapes suggested rather than defined. As you look around this inner garden, you might notice one spot that calls to you just a little more than the rest. A patch of light, a bench under a tree, a stone path disappearing behind tall grasses. We'll walk there slowly. Somewhere along that path, you find a single flower waiting for you. It can be any kind. Perhaps it's the first flower that came to your mind earlier tonight. Perhaps it's one you've loved in waking life. Perhaps it surprises you. You don't need to name it. You can just let it be this flower. Gently, let its image become clearer, as if you were bringing it a little closer to your face. Notice its color, or if color doesn't come, notice its shape. Round, star-like, cupped, or wild. You might imagine reaching out and touching a petal with the tip of your finger. Feel how it would be. Silky or velvety, thick and waxy like a magnolia, or thin and papery like a poppy. In your brain, the areas that track touch begin to participate, responding to this imagined sensation, as if a real petal were there. You might even imagine lifting the flower by its stem, feeling its slight weight in your hand, the cool smoothness of its green skin. Somewhere deep in your nervous system, signals that usually react to weight and texture. Begin to hum along to this inner rehearsal. And if you like, you can bring the flower toward your face. Imagine the faintest tickle at your nose, the breath of a scent, sweet or fresh or spicy, or barely there. Your limbic brain, where scent and memory and emotion are braided tightly together, may stir. A memory might float up, or just a feeling of summer, of safety, of a certain place, of nothing at all beyond this is gentle. There is no right response. The simple act of imagining is enough to start shifting your body's state. Heart rate may ease, breath may deepen. The vagus nerve, that long, wandering thread connecting your brain to your heart and organs, may carry the message: we are in a safe scene. We are in a soft place. You can let go a little more. This one flower, held in your mind's hand, is the beginning of your inner bouquet. In the everyday world, bouquets travel from person to person as messages. I'm thinking of you, I'm proud of you, I'm sorry, I'm glad you're here, I know you're hurting. I wanted to bring something living into the room when we give or receive flowers, especially in moments of emotion. Certain social circuits in the brain awaken, the systems that sense connection, that respond to touch and kindness, that release hormones like oxytocin, the so-called bonding chemical. They come to the surface. Oxytocin can soften the stress response. It can counterbalance some of the harder edges of cortisol and adrenaline. It tells the body, there is support here. You are not completely alone in this. You may have felt it when someone placed a bouquet in your hands, or even a single flower behind your ear, or on your table. That brief sense of being seen, of being remembered. Tonight, you are going to offer that gesture to yourself, not as a grand act, not as a demand to feel better, but as a quiet experiment in inner kindness, in your mind's garden, with that first flower still in hand. Look around you again. Somewhere nearby, there are more blooms. Maybe you see them clearly. Rows of tulips, clusters of wildflowers, roses climbing an arch. Maybe you just sense color, or shapes, or the idea of many flowers. Walk among them at your own pace. As you move, notice if anyone seems to lean toward you, as if offering itself. You can choose that one, reach toward it in your imagination, and as you pick it, whisper gently, or just think, "This is for me." You don't have to justify it. You don't have to earn it. You are simply including yourself in the circle of beings who deserve small, beautiful things. As you gather more flowers, 1 or 3 or 10, let yourself notice which ones you choose. Are they all one color, like a theme your heart is following tonight? Or are they varied, each one a different note in a chord? Are they species you know, or dream flowers that exist only here? You are building an imaginary bouquet, stem by stem. As you do this, the brain regions involved in choice and value, areas in the frontal lobes that evaluate. Is this good for me? Do I like this? Light up gently. But unlike the choices of your day, emails, tasks, conversations, these choices carry no risk. You cannot choose wrong. You cannot disappoint anyone. Nothing is at stake. Your decision-making systems get to move slowly, with a sense of play instead of pressure. This, too, is regulation. When the brain engages in low stakes, pleasurable imagining, it often shifts out of threat mode. The amygdala, that small, watchful center of fear, can rest its eyes for a moment. In its place, the networks of the default mode, those circuits that wander, through memory and self-reflection, can meander like a stream, rather than rushing like a flood. You can pause now, in that garden, with however many flowers you carry, and gently bring them together. In your hands, arrange them in your mind, taller stems at the back, smaller blooms at the front, colors balancing each other, like notes in a lullaby. Imagine the weight of the bouquet, not heavy, but present, a bundle of softness, a handful of color and scent. And now, imagine you are offering it to yourself. You might see another version of you, sitting on a bench in this inner garden, tired perhaps, a little hunched, the way you feel on hard days. You walk up to them, to you, and hold out the bouquet. No big speech, just the gesture. A quiet here. This is for you, for everything you've carried, for everything you survived today, for the ways you tried and the ways you couldn't, for the part of you that is so tired. Notice how that inner self responds. Maybe they smile, maybe they cry, maybe they look confused, unused to such kindness. Whatever happens is okay. The important part is that somewhere in your brain, the circuits for being cared for are being invited to light up. Even though the scene is imagined, the emotional effect can be real. The body does not always distinguish between an outer hug and a fully felt inner one. This is not about pretending you have no needs or that imagination can replace real support. It's about adding one more strand of comfort to the web that holds you. A self-offered bouquet, night after night, can become a symbol your nervous system recognizes. Oh, we are in that moment again. The moment when we shift from doing to receiving, from judging to accepting, from bracing to softening. If, as you try this, your mind keeps skipping away to lists, to worries, to fragments of today, that is completely normal. The thinking brain is used to being busy. It's like a river that has known only fast currents for a long time. When you ask it to slow, it doesn't always know how at first. It surges. It circles back to what it knows. You don't need to fight it. Each time you notice you've drifted from the garden, you can simply say to yourself, very gently, of course, and now I'm coming back. Back to the gate, back to the path, back to the flower in your hand. Like a child learning to walk a route home, your mind learns the path to this inner place by repetition. At first it may feel faint, like a trail in tall grass. With practice, It becomes clearer, a path your feet can find, even in low light. Imagery is like that, a seed watered night after night. It rarely bursts into full bloom. In one attempt, it grows slowly. Some nights vivid, some nights barely there, but present all the same. If visual images are hard for you to hold, you can lean instead on other senses. Maybe you don't see the bouquet, but you can feel the idea of it in your hands. Cool stems, petals brushing your skin. Maybe you can't quite feel that either, but you can think the word rose, or lavender, or wildflower, and let the associations drift in like mist. Or perhaps color speaks to you more than shape. You can imagine a soft cloud of pink, or a field of blue, or a wash of white light that you call jasmine, even if no specific flower forms. Your brain is flexible. It does not require perfect pictures to feel the benefit of gentle, repeated attention. The key is the posture of it, how you approach yourself. As you do this, with judgment, I'm not doing this right. I can't visualize. This isn't working. The nervous system hears more pressure. With curiosity, I wonder what my inner garden might look like tonight. It hears openness. With kindness, I'm offering this to myself because I'm tired and I deserve something gentle. It hears safety. Over time, closing your eyes at night and walking through this inner garden can become a kind of wordless ritual. You arrive at the gate, you step through, you find a flower or many, you bring them together, offer them to yourself, and rest in the feeling that, at least in this inner place, you are remembered, you are greeted, you are met with softness. You are not escaping reality, you are supplementing it, adding a small, tender layer over the harder parts of being alive. Just as people bring flowers into hospital rooms or onto graves, not to deny pain, but to weave beauty alongside it. You are bringing flowers into the quiet room of your own mind. You are telling your brain, in a language made of images and sensation, for this moment, you can stand down. You are safe enough. You are cared for, at least by me. It is time to rest. As you lie here now, perhaps the bouquet in your imagination has found its way to a bedside table in that inner garden. Perhaps it rests on your chest or floats above you, like a small constellation of petals. Wherever it is, let it be a symbol, not of perfection, but of permission. Permission to be exactly as you are, awake or drifting, calm or stirred, and still worthy of gentleness. If sleep comes soon, it can gather you up, like a gardener lifting an armful of flowers, carrying you into dreams. If sleep takes its time, you are still allowed to close your eyes again and again, to step through that gate, to walk slowly among the blossoms only you can see. Somewhere deep inside, neurons will be adjusting, waves of activity will be changing shape, muscles will be listening to the slower pace of your breath and your inner garden. Watered by attention, lit by the softest light of your own kindness, will go on growing, petal by petal, night by night, a place you can always return to when the world is too loud and you need a bouquet made just for you, to remind your body and your mind you are safe, you are cared for. It is time, slowly, gently, to rest. Night has its own kind of garden. You may not see it with your eyes closed, but somewhere inside, a landscape has been slowly forming, made of colors you like, scents that calm you, patterns and petals stitched together from memory and science and hope. We have wandered, very gently, through the ways flowers speak to your nervous system, how their shapes can quiet restless thoughts, how their fragrances cradle your oldest memories, how their hidden geometry and colors ease the work of the eyes and mind. We have listened to the clocks in their cells and in your own, both learning how to trust the coming of rest. It's normal if your day still echoes faintly in the background. The brain does not always fall silent on command. But somewhere deep in the mind, the pathways of calm we touch tonight are still there, like roots running under the surface, steady and patient. You don't have to remember any of the details. You don't have to hold on to the facts or the names, or the studies that hinted at how and why this works. Let them drift away if they want to, like dandelion seeds on a soft wind. What remains is simpler, the felt knowledge that your body is designed to respond to gentleness, that your mind knows how to soften when it meets certain shapes, certain scents, certain stories. As you lie here now, you might imagine one last flower. It can be any kind. Picture it resting by your bedside, or tucked behind your ear, or blooming quietly in the space behind your closed eyes. Let it stand as a small, wordless promise that rest is not something you have to earn or deserve. It is a natural blooming, like petals opening to the night. If sleep comes, you can let it take you. If wakefulness lingers, you are still allowed to relax into the softness of this moment, held by your own breathing, held by the dark, held by an invisible garden always available within. Like the stars waiting quietly above the clouds, your capacity for calm is never truly gone, only hidden, ready to shine again, whenever you are ready to close your eyes and return to the petals of quiet.